everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies podcast. This podcast is about forcing our friends to watch movies that we love and then getting their unvarnished, honest opinion. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Austin.
And today we are doing a Jenn pick, which immediately makes me very concerned. Jenn, why don't you tell us about the Autopsy of Jane Doe?
Yes, I'm so excited to do this one. I know you guys are not really big horror fans, and I'm excited to try to get you into my world.
Never.
So Autopsy of Jane Doe is a pretty recent movie, actually. It came out in 2016. So I don't have like a huge backstory with it of like growing up watching it all the time like we've done in the past. But this is one that was sort of an indie film. It played a couple of film festivals. It had really good word of mouth in the horror community. So I just watched it, went in completely blind, had no idea what it was about or what was going to happen. And I just had a great time. I think it's just a really solid, well-made film. And it's one of the horror movies that I recommend to people a lot when they're like, what's something that's good that I should see that I maybe haven't already seen or heard of, or something that's really creepy and good. I'm always like, Autopsy of Jane Doe, you have to watch it. So that is why I decided you guys had to watch it. So
Fair enough.
Did either of you know anything about it going in? Had you heard of it? What did you think it was going to be about?
I feel like I had heard of it, but just kind of in passing. I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't know any of the scares, which is the big thing for me. I'm so bad at going in blind to horror movies. So I didn't know anything too exciting about it. What about you, Jackie?
I also knew it existed. Like I had heard of the title. I knew nothing about it going in. Again, I'm probably out of the three of us, I know the least and watch the least horror. So I knew exactly what the title said. And from that, I made a plot guess. And it turned out my plot guess was exactly correct.
Did you guess that it was going to be about an autopsy of a Jane Doe?
I did. But here,
Wow.
why don't I just read it to you guys? Body of a young woman is found in mysterious circumstances. The autopsy is conducted to get an ID and a cause of death. During autopsy, they realize something in her is still alive. Jump scares and terror ensue. Come on and tell me that's not the perfect summary of that movie.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, that's it. That's 100% it. I was very pleased with myself by the end. I was like, oh, I got it.
Yeah, I decided to try to guess what some of the scares would be. So my plot guess was people perform an autopsy on an unknown woman who starts to haunt them. And some of the scares that I expected to see was a cat fake out. I expected a corpse to open their eyes, a mirror scare, someone standing at the foot of a bed, bugs being somewhere they shouldn't be. I got pretty good on my scare bingo.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah, I have a really complicated relationship with horror movies, so I feel like I was excited to watch this when you recommended it, Jen, and I'm excited to watch some more of your picks. But I like horror in theory, but I have a very hard time watching it. And Jen, you had set out some rules for us that were go in blind and don't look up what happens, watch it on a big screen. I pretty much broke all of them. I'm so sorry.
Austin, you're killing me.
I don't know. I want to like horror so much more than I do. It's a complicated thing.
See, I hate it and I don't want to like it and I don't want to know it. I have no desire to inflict it on myself. But I followed the rules. I didn't look anything up. I didn't look up the plot or any of the trivia. I was warned ahead of time that there was an animal death. And I broke one other rule that Jen set out, which was don't cover your eyes. Which I ended up doing a lot. And I really, it's such an instinctual reaction that I First, I wasn't even aware I was doing it, and then I tried to make a note, and I was thinking, what just happened? So I'm sorry. I think I missed some significant parts, but I think I also got the gist pretty well.
Yeah, my big thing was I watched it on my iPad because that was the easiest thing for me to watch it on. And I do think I don't know if it was the lighting on the iPad or the lighting of the movie, but I think I missed some visual stuff just because it was really dark, which we can get into. But in some of the specific parts, but I got the general gist of everything. I think I watched once I kind of looked up on Does the Dog Die and saw a couple of things to expect. I was able to watch it for the most part. I didn't cover my eyes too often.
I honestly bless that website because it gave me the exact second and minute at which point I muted the television
Yeah.
and turned away. And then it even gave you the second you could come back to it. It's great.
Oh, wow.
Very helpful. Mm-hmm.
So, Jen, why don't you give us a rundown of what this movie's actually about? We kind of got ahead of ourselves a little, but bring us back.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so The Autopsy of Jane Doe, like I said, it's a 2016 film directed by André Øvredal. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly. I believe he's Norwegian. This is his first English language film, and it is about a father-son coroner duo who are tasked to identify a Jane Doe and come up with the cause of death. Her body was uncovered in a house in their local town in a murder scene. The family's brutally slaughtered, and this young woman is dead, but her body is completely perfect. There's no injuries, there's no blood. And so they have to sort of spend the night performing this autopsy and trying to figure out what happened to her. And as they go through, there's a lot of like injuries that don't match up. There's a lot of mysterious things that start happening in their house/morgue, and shit gets kind of scary.
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just have to say, as a horror newbie, I think I might have to argue with your rule about going in blind, because now that I know what's happening with the movie and what to expect, I think I'm probably going to watch it again, and I'd be more likely to keep my eyes open. So we're going to have to discuss your rule next time you assign a movie about, maybe you could tell me generally what happens, and then I can decide when to open my eyes, if you think that's okay.
I feel the same way. I think going forward with some of your picks, Jen, I think I'll know more about some of them, maybe ones that are a little bit more well-known in just the zeitgeist. But, and I think those ones I'm going to have an easier time watching without looking ahead at all.
See, I feel this is just like a fundamental difference in how we watch movies, because I don't want to know. Like, the whole joy, the whole fun is being surprised and not knowing what's going to happen and trying to put things together yourself. And the fact that you guys are like, I'd rather know what's going to happen. That's just weird to me.
I know, it's totally weird.
Remember when we watched The Exorcist together, finally?
Yes, and your favorite part was the part that you didn't know was going to happen.
Exactly. It was the only scare that I didn't know was coming, and it was very subtle, and I wasn't expecting it. And I just got, like, full body shivers, like, my whole body went warm. I was like, oh, is this why people like horror movies? And Jen laughed at me, but so I really was trying to get that, like, replicate that, but I just, it's like, I was so uncomfortable. This movie is really good at building tension and making you feel very uncomfortable. But I would actually argue that it is a good movie, or a good horror movie for people who maybe don't watch a lot of horror.
I would say that I generally don't want to know. That's the thing. In most movie types, I don't want to know. But in horror movies, I'm always anticipating some huge jump scare.
Yeah.
So I'm always on edge. And so I'm preemptively closing my eyes to avoid that. So it's just, anyway, we'll figure it out as we go. But we'll have to maybe change the rules for me because I'm such a wuss.
I am still always going to give you guys the rules of try to go in blind. I will give warnings with animal deaths.
Okay.
But if you secretly feel that you need to look up what happened so that you're not scared, I will be disappointed in you, but I won't like, kick you off of the podcast or anything.
Okay, well, that's basically a dare. You basically lay down a rule. The disappointment threat, it totally works on me. Damn it.
This is also our first, like, real horror movie, so I feel like, we're just warming up. We'll get better, right?
Yeah, that's true. I thought this would be a good one to sort of test and see how you guys react to it and what you like about it, because I really like this movie because there's so many different elements of horror that I really enjoy. So there's the mystery of finding out what happened to the Jane Doe. There's the sort of supernatural elements. There's sort of kind of a bit of a mind fuck where you don't know what's really happening and what's sort of a hallucination, or I don't even know how to describe it, something that's being manipulated by like the supernatural force. There's also kind of a bit of a body horror with the autopsy and the injuries. Yeah. So there's just a lot of different elements to it that I love all of them, but it's good to kind of test the waters with people like you guys who aren't really into horror, so you can kind of identify, this I like, this I don't.
Right.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think it might come down to myself, my personal way of watching movies is that I'm probably going to have to watch them twice. So one time to get really scared and miss most of it, and then a second time to actually watch the movie and know what's coming. That's a lot of commitment, but I'm going to try, Jen. I'm trying a little bit, although I really procrastinated on watching this. It took me days to force myself to watch this.
You watched
I
it like a
think you
few
watched
hours
it-
ago, right?
Yeah, just hours before we recorded, so it's fresh in your mind.
Because I was literally forced. The clock was ticking on my wall, and I knew I had to watch it, but I still put it off for another hour. Oh boy, this movie. Okay, well, let's just get into it. How we feel
Yeah.
about this movie.
I just want to know right off the bat, what was the scare level for you guys? Were you scared a lot? Were you scared a little? Were there certain scenes that really scared you? Like, how did it work for you fear-wise?
I guess it depends how we judge that. I would say I was on edge pretty much the whole time, because one thing I really do want to talk about is the pacing of this movie. So we'll get into that, but I felt like for the most part I was at like a solid maybe 5 the whole time of just like anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of once things really ramped up in the last 20 minutes, I'd actually say my scare level went maybe a little bit down. And it kind of, ebbed and flowed. So I'd say maybe overall like a 6 out of 10,
Okay.
Yeah.
Jackie, same?
Well, I don't know about that. I think that if we're judging scare level, I think this movie itself would have delivered pretty good scares, but I think I was so tense that I was over scared than what was probably appropriate.
Right.
So for me, I was scared like an 8. I had to pause it a couple times and look out the window and be like, look, it's sunny outside. Everything is fine. Because I have this problem with movies where I feel too invested in them. I feel like I'm really there. And I have to stop and remind myself that this isn't actually happening. So I was about an 8 scared, I guess, but I don't think it should have been an 8 scare movie.
One thing that I really liked about the movie right off the bat is that I think like I want to watch it again. And I think it's because it's so well done, but also it's not something that's gonna scare me in the future. Like I'm not gonna have a hard time sleeping over it, that kind of thing. Because that always to me is what makes me hesitant to watch horror movies, where I like if I close my eyes and I'm still seeing pictures of it. But that I don't think this is the case with this one.
Yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about what Jenn was saying about what kind of scares you liked in this movie. So I have to say that the autopsy stuff I really didn't mind. I thought that was pretty cool. And then I really like the type of movies, I'm sure there's a term for it, where they're enclosed in a space, or like a closed box kind of a movie. Like they spent the entire time in the basement.
Yeah.
Like situational kind of horror. I don't know what you would call it, but it was so immediate and enclosed and a little claustrophobic. And I enjoyed that. It definitely ratcheted up the tension for me.
Yeah.
And it was almost simple because it was so contained. It wasn't a lot of extra. Am I making sense when I say that? It just seemed really clear and focused and really that much more scary because it was so real.
No, I totally agree. I think this film is just a really simple idea, basically. There's essentially only 2 characters and they're in like 2 rooms, basically, and but it's so well done. I also, as you were talking about how you love how it's all in the basement, I just want to give a quick shout out to the production design because I think it looks amazing, this movie. Like, I love that it's these super long hallways and this really old house with like wooden walls and wallpaper and lots of shadows and like the mirror so you can look around the corner. Like, it's just set up like it's going to be like a haunted house kind of movie, but it's not. It's kind of just also the like mortician's office. They have like a morgue in the back. So I don't know. I think it looks really cool.
It looks cool,
Definitely.
but for the beginning of the movie, I was questioning about whether this was actually like the 1970s. People's outfits and the decor.
The house is so retro, yeah.
I mean, I guess it could kind of take place whenever. I mean, there's a reference to The Notebook, but other than that, there's
and
not
he uses
a whole lot of
iPhone flashlight.
Oh, fair enough. So as I say, there's not a whole lot of like time setting in it, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can assume that this kind of thing's been going on for a really long time. So
yeah.
It was really cool looking. I enjoyed a lot of that, but I also was questioning it because he makes a comment, the son makes a comment about how they're continuously expanding and improving their basement facility. And in my mind, I was saying, really? Because it looks like you haven't dusted or touched it in 70 years. But it did look pretty cool. And I will say that the autopsy room, the facility, the radio playing, the way they did the autopsy, the chalkboard and the video camera is all so realistic. The way it opened with them doing that autopsy and just singing and moving around and joking is so realistic that I wondered what you guys thought about that.
Well,
It
I
was
wanted to ask
incredibly-
you what you thought about it.
Same. I was like, Jackie's the expert. You've worked in sort of similar environments, so I wanted to know like how real it was, what you thought of that.
Yeah, I thought at first I was really impressed because it's funny because every morgue has that old boombox, like a cassette deck. It's so funny. Everyone does. And you'll see people in various states of protective gear. You'll see people eating, see people talking about their lives and treating it really routinely like they did when they were doing the first autopsy with the burn victim. The way they got really close to it and they were just kind of everything they did was so routine and kind of slap a brain in a scale. It's just
Yeah.
like that. It's a job. It's a every day in and out, same thing. It's you get pretty dehumanized. And it was really good. I was really impressed. I don't know if it's not really a hard thing to portray, but I'm just impressed that they chose to show it how it really is. That's it.
That's awesome.
I will say I was really confused for the first 5 minutes or so because I was thinking this is a funeral home and they do not do autopsies in funeral homes. That's straight up two totally different things. Now, in the end, it ended up that he's the county coroner and he just happens to run a funeral home, which seems very strange to me because coroners are physicians. But let's say he went to med school and decided that he wanted to take over the family funeral home business. I'm on board, but at first I was complaining in my mind because I'm like, these people are not qualified. What are they doing? Who is this guy sawing his brain off? This is a teenager and his dad. They're just like creepy funeral home employees who decide to do their own autopsies.
Oh no.
That's where I thought this movie was going at first. I thought they were like creepy serial killer guys who were gonna do some weirdo autopsies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's something that I always forget too when I'm talking about this movie. I never know what to call them because I'm like, oh, they're like at a funeral home. Then I'm like, wait, no, they're actually working with the police. They're like coroners.
Yeah, one's a coroner, one's like a certified medical technician, which
Yeah,
is a really broad term that doesn't mean you're qualified to be an autopsy assistant, but we can let that go.
yeah, I think that's more like the son is just kind of doing the bare minimum to be able to work as a family business to help his dad out.
Yeah.
I would actually really love to talk about the two of them, the main characters, the father and son. I thought that they were really great protagonists. And I don't know, I guess I haven't watched a ton of horror, but they just struck me as very nice people, but also they handled themselves very differently than I would have expected. Once shit started hitting the fan and, you know, they just kind of accepted that this was happening. And there was no screaming in this movie. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It just struck me as odd a little bit, but like in a good way, that they're just like, okay, this is our situation. We are going to need to, you know, solve this problem. Like, cool. There's like a dead body outside. No big deal. Like it was just very like, I don't know. It was different to me and I liked it.
Well, yeah, they don't often seem to have two main characters in a movie, right? I assumed that the dad was going to die right away. Because usually it's one person that you're rooting for and everyone else is just cannon fodder. But I really like the fact that they both made it pretty close to the end.
So close.
So close.
Yeah. And I think that's also because this movie, basically, they're the only two cast members. Like, there's a few minor characters in the girlfriend and in the cop, and then, of course, there's Jane Doe herself. But you're really just following these two, and they have to kind of work together to figure out what is going on and how to escape, if they can escape. And that's something I really like, too, is, like Austin, you were saying, when shit starts getting real, they kind of are just like, shit's getting real. We got to get out of here, you know? There's no, like, oh, there's no such thing as ghosts. Nothing's happening. We're fine. They're just like, no. Weird things are happening, and I would like to leave.
Yeah, and they worked together. Like they weren't against each other. They didn't turn against each other. And I just like their dynamic. And I was sad as soon as it started. I was like, I'm gonna like these people, and they're probably not gonna make it to the end of the movie. So that was a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, I recognized the dad right away, and I was like, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's definitely gonna die.
Shout out to Brian Cox.
Yep.
Yeah, Super Troopers. Amazing.
Is Super Troopers what you know him from?
Yep, that's the one.
Austin, what do you know Brian Cox from?
I don't think I know him from anything. I know I've seen him before, but I don't think I could tell you.
Oh, I thought this was going to be one of those things where we all know him from something very different. He's, wasn't he the original Hannibal Lecter in the 80s movie?
Yes, he was. I remember reading that.
Wow.
But also Super Troopers.
Yeah, he's the chief. He's the captain. It's amazing. Knockout Oscar-worthy performance.
Yeah, I also think he's genuinely really great in this. I mean, all the acting is good in this movie, I'd say. There's no one where I kind of think they stick out like a sore thumb, but I definitely love the dad so much. I think he's really good in this film.
Yeah, I really liked both of them for sure. I thought they were both really good actors. And I only had one problem, which was when the girlfriend dies. I thought his freak out cry scream was really bad. It struck me as very off for the movie. It seemed like a acting 101 kind of a scream. But I think the rest, he did a great job. Like, I really can't complain. Just because I think his scream wasn't good doesn't mean he didn't do a really good job.
Can we talk about that scene actually where the girlfriend dies? Because that is one of my favorite scenes in the film. They're trying to get out of there because creepy things have started happening. And they believe that the corpses from their morgue have left the drawers and are walking around down the hallway towards them as they're trying to get to the elevator. So they're freaking out. They're trying to leave. You, for a split second, see a flash of a corpse that they had been talking about at the beginning of the film. And the dad swings the axe to kill it and then realizes that it was not that, dead body walking around. It was actually his son's girlfriend who had been there at the beginning of the movie and left and said she was going to come back later. And they did not realize she had come back. So he axed her to death. In another one of those kind of mindfucky moments, like I was saying, where you don't really know what's really happening. Because up until the second you see it's her body, you believe it is the corpse. Like, you see the corpse. You see the corpse's face.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know if you guys did, if you were covered.
I did watch that.
No, my eyes were covered.
Okay.
Good to know.
Well, they did so much build up to that specific corpse too, right? That was the gunshot wound.
Yeah, the one with the caved-in face, basically.
And that was the corpse that the girlfriend earlier had wanted to see and was trying to see, and then also had the bell on the toe.
Yeah, and they found the covering on the ground, so you knew that his caved-in face was exposed.
Can I just side note? I was so mad at myself that I didn't see the scare coming about the bell on the toe. Like they planted that seed. They planted that seed so early in the film, and I was just like, la-di-da.
I literally have a note that says, "Oh, an ankle bell. I wonder if that'll come back later."
Yeah. As soon as I heard it, like later on, when the corpse was actually in the hallway, I was like, "Oh fuck! Why didn't I see that coming?"
I want to, if you could, Jen, tell me more about the mindfuckery aspect of this movie, because I didn't really get that some stuff was supposed to make you think maybe it wasn't real.
So it's not that you're not supposed to think it wasn't real, it's that what was happening for them wasn't necessarily what was happening. So there's sort of, the radio is playing that old song all the time. There's sounds of a storm and that the doors are locked, but none of that is really happening. At the beginning of the film, actually, you hear the radio saying, like, oh, another bright sunny day. And then at the very end of the film, you hear it again saying, like, another, like, fourth straight day of sunshine. But the night that they're conducting the autopsy when all the creepy stuff is happening, they believe there's a storm and that the power's gone out and that a tree branch has blocked their exit so they can't get out of the place. But none of that was real. That was just, the witch manipulating reality, kind of.
Ah. I didn't get the weather thing. I did wonder about the door being blocked. I was thinking, oh, that's pretty friggin' convenient. But now I guess I can see that it was all her weird witchy powers.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the mindfuck elements. And same thing with, they see the corpse, but it wasn't really the corpse. It was the girlfriend. It's somehow this witch has the ability to manipulate reality. So they're seeing and hearing things that aren't really there.
Oh, God. Yeah, does that mean that the cat didn't die and they incinerated their alive cat? Complete silence.
So I was thinking about this, to be honest, because
oh my God,
to explain the cat scene that you were warned about, Austin had to discover it on her own by Googling.
Full disclosure. Yep. Yeah, anytime I start a movie and there's an animal pops out, I'm like, hold up, pause.
Yeah, check it out.
JustTheDogGuy.com. But I will say I just skipped over this scene as I knew it was coming up to when he was like looking at an event, and so I didn't even bother like closing my eyes. I just fast forwarded. So full disclosure.
Yeah,
I watched it, but I watched it on mute.
No, you're totally right to do that. I looked away because I don't like seeing dead cats either. But basically the scene is they hear a noise in the vent. There's something moving in it very fast, and then he finds the cat in the vent half dead, and so then he takes it out, and then the father puts the cat down, and they put it in the incinerator. you never find out one way or another if that was real or not. Like, you don't know if, the witch injured the cat because the cat had been growling at her when she was first brought into the coroner's office.
Yeah.
So you don't know if she actually did attack the cat and then they killed it, or if she didn't attack it and they were seeing that as a hallucination like Jackie suggested, or if none of that even really happened and the cat is wandering around somewhere being like, why did my owners murder themselves?
I like option 3.
That's the one I choose
do
to
too.
believe.
Can I tell you what my theory was? And it's probably wrong, and you're probably going to have a lot of ways to discount it. But the way I understood it was that, in my mind, the only way she can hurt people is if they've been exposed to her blood, because the dad got an injury. He got like a needle stick. So he was contaminated by her, and so she could have an effect on him. Because the son, as far as I could tell, he was psychologically tormented, but he was never physically injured. Is that right?
That's interesting. That's not how I took it with the blood, because if you think about that family at the very beginning of the film, I don't think they did anything to her. I think they just accidentally uncovered her body, and then the same kind of fuckery went down, and they all ended up killing each other. So I think it's more just that anyone that comes in her path, she's enacting her revenge on.
Because I was thinking everyone who comes in her path is going to get revenged on, but only through mind control, not physical effects. So she mind controlled that family into killing each other.
Yes.
And she mind controlled the son. I can't remember his name. Austin?
Yes.
Austin.
Yeah, that's
It
so
was.
funny. I just got that. But then because the dad was exposed more directly to her blood, he was getting, beaten up and bruised, and then he could have the final torture effects, because the family who was murdered didn't have any signs of the torture effects, right? Like, they didn't have
No.
the symbol on the skin or any of that kind of weird stuff. But I don't know. This is just what my theory was.
No, that's interesting. Although I don't know if we ever really find out about the family, because we're not doing those autopsies. We just know that they're brutally murdered in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I assumed they were all shot. I don't really know why. My first note, though, says, I always wanted to be the cop who crouches beside the body. In every movie, there's a cop who crouches and looks at it and just shakes his head. I want to be that person.
I want to be the cop from Nightmare on Elm Street when they walk into Johnny Depp's blood-gushing room and, like, someone get a mop.
Oh, you want to be the monster?
Yeah, I want to be the really mean cop who stares at all the blood.
Dream big, Jen. You can do it. I believe in you.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I got this. Is it right that she's trying to injure people in the same way she's been injured?
I believe that's only at the end when she's doing that to the father, because up until that point... because it's...
Right, we don't really know.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I guess I was going to ask for a little clarification on her story, if I maybe just tune something out, or if they do go into it a bit more, because I know they don't really get a final answer on who she is or what she is. They kind of interpret things as they find clues, but I guess we're just left to assume that she's going to keep torturing people as they come across her body, and I'm assuming if anyone does an autopsy on her, the same kind of thing is going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
So I had the same question. Sorry, Jen, really quick. I just wanted to say I had the same question at the end of the movie. I'm like, is this going to happen at another autopsy area? And is no one going to realize that everyone who does an autopsy dies?
So that's definitely, she's going to keep killing anyone who comes in contact with her, but I don't know if it's going to be another autopsy, because it could be that she never makes it to the next coroner's office because something happens in this car,
Mm.
Well, that was, I guess, part 2 of that question was, is she closer to being resurrected after each? Because, like, she took, like, her, her skin pinkened a bit, and, like, she was healing herself as she was injuring Tommy. So, is she closer to being brought back to life after each autopsy?
That is what I think she was trying to do. I don't know if it's something that she tried to do each time, but I do think that's what she was trying to do in this situation, where the father was sort of taking on her injuries. Like, his wrist started to break and hers started to heal, and he started to get in pain and she started to get more full of life. I think she was trying to come back, but I don't think it was successful. So I don't know if she's going to just try again or what.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it, like, reset back to 0 or...
Yeah, I
was
kind of got the impression
thing.
that because he was willing, maybe it healed her. They mentioned at some points that it was like sacrifice ? So the way I interpreted it without any reason to interpret it this way was that because he volunteered, it was bringing her closer back to life, whereas other encounters with this Jane Doe just made people die.
Yes, I think so too. I was actually reading a theory earlier because I was just looking up, doing some research on the film. And I found a Reddit theory that was saying that, he kind of offered himself to her and he was like, leave my son alone and take me. And that's what she started doing. But then when the son killed the father and put him out of his misery, that kind of ended her resurrection. And that's why she still killed the son anyway, because she was like, you guys didn't let me finish the ritual. I'm not back to life, so fuck you both.
Yeah, that was kind of the sense I got.
I got that too, but I didn't realize that that's why then she killed the son. I just thought that she would have been complete if the dad died from his injuries. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. That's why she decided to. Bye-bye, Austin. Yeah. Sorry, Austin.
Yeah, sorry, other Austin.
It's okay. I will say, at the end, when after the father has died and the lights come back on and everything's sort of back to normal, and then off in the distance you hear the sheriff yelling Austin's name to try to get him to open the door and let him in. That scared the shit out of me because it was like off in the distance and just like a faint yelling of Austin. I was like, "Oh, who's here?"
Oh my gosh, that must have been so scary. I really
and then
thought
he
at that point
singing, and that blew my mind. I was like, "Oh God, this is intense."
I thought the movie right then was going to be that the entire thing was this young man's hallucination, and he had killed his girlfriend and his dad, and none of it was happening, and he was schizophrenic. And I was really concerned. I was like, "Oh no, what a terrible ending to this movie!"
Oh, that would have been so sad.
Yeah, I was like, "That's just dark."
I will say, for the record, I 100% hate movies that do that. I want the ghosts to be real. I want the witches to be real. I don't want it just to have been in someone's head all along. So if I'm giving you guys a movie, 99% of the time, it will not be like, the twist is none of it was real and some guy was crazy.
No, good. I think that's good.
Yeah, I hate those movies. It cheapens everything. It's like, oh, it was all a dream. Go to hell. I just wanted to say, for the record, I knew she was a witch immediately. I don't know why, but I was like,
you guys that.
Yeah, I'm like, she's a witch. I don't know why. Maybe because she has dark hair. But I was like, witch, 100%. Austin, did you think she was like a witch?
Well, I had kind of cheated at that point, so I felt like I couldn't, but I wouldn't have guessed it, I don't think. I feel like had I known that, I wouldn't have been as interested in watching it. You know what I mean? But it was done really well, and
it was done really well. And I really like the fact that she never moved, because I was waiting for that the entire movie.
Oh yeah, you're just waiting the whole time for her to sit up or to blink.
Yeah, I was. That's where I was covering my eyes, I think, the most, is I was trying to watch her, but every time there was like a prolonged shot on her face, I just got like, I had to look away. It was so uncomfortable.
She was really good at playing a dead body.
Right?
Like, she seemed very dead.
Yeah,
good for you, actress.
I wrote down her name because I thought she deserved a shout out. She is an Irish actress named Olwen Kenny, and she actually just had to lie down there naked and not blinking for days at a time. So shout out to her.
Yeah, and it must have been really cold.
She was apparently, one of the reasons she was cast was because of her knowledge of yoga and her ability to like control her breathing and her body. And I know the director really credits her on kind of setting the stage and like really making everyone at ease on the set. So also, sorry, Jen, just to correct her name, it's Olwen Kelly.
Oh, I saw Olwen Kenny when I was looking it up, but oh well. It's one of those names.
Also, quickly, did her facial expression change halfway through the movie? Like, I found that after the whole kind of shit show in the middle, when they start discovering that she's a witch and all that, and they bring her into the new place, her expression, I don't know if I was just imagining things, but it seemed much more menacing at that point. I don't know if you noticed that.
The only thing I noticed was that once they seemed to actually say she's a witch, Salem Witch Trials, 1693, then I feel like her face changed. But it was, I can't pinpoint the moment, but I do know, obviously, right at the end there, when she's healing, when she's sacrificing herself, she seems to have a very different expression on her face.
Yeah, I think it started kind of at the beginning of that scene as everything was kind of ramping up. And okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed.
Well, yeah, it was still a blank face. right?
Yeah, it
It's
just seems
very
slightly more.
nuanced.
Yeah, it just seems slightly more of a. I don't know. It just seems slightly more menacing.
It's
To me, it
interesting
seemed
'cause-
like almost like a smile.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought she was kind of like smirking, like she was finally getting her way. But
And
like
you don't
said,
find that menacing?
It's so subtle.
Yeah, okay. If a corpse is smiling, that is menacing. I will agree.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So I do really appreciate that, you know, her corpse never moves. She's still the entire time. And that's so creepy. But the other corpses in the morgue do, because honestly, there is nothing scarier than that, than just being in a morgue and the drawers opening and then all of a sudden the bed is empty and the sheets on the floor. I was like, oh my God, this is the scariest thing. When I first watched it, I was so creeped out. I loved it.
I definitely have a note that says, oh fuck, don't have a fucking morgue drawer open by itself. Fuck! Because they set it up too. The first time it opens, they just kind of go, oh, the door's open, better close it. And I was like, that's going to come back again. Every time those inanimate objects move themselves, I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, there's just something so ominous about, like, corpses in the morgue, something that's supposed to be completely dead and sterile and lifeless, not being that way. Like, even more so than just a regular zombie, it's just so much creepier when it's actually in a morgue somehow.
I will say that I don't understand why the woman who died of mesothelioma had what appeared to be her eyes and mouth sewn shut. That just looked I know they were trying to make the corpse look scarier than a corpse, but it seemed really strange to me. She looked very unreal.
That is a good point. I was going to say something stupid that I'm not going to say to you. I was going to be like, maybe they donated her eyes and they didn't want to have her socket, so they sewed it up shut. But then I was like, Jackie would know if that is a practice.
It's 100% not. 100% you're not allowed to damage the eyelids. So, guess again.
But then they just didn't want her socket there empty because the eye was already gone. So they're like, we'll just stitch it up for her.
Yeah, once you take out the eyeball, you can just close the eyelid again and it stays closed.
Okay, so my theory is debunked.
Yes, debunked. Big stamp. Untrue. And also, why would they sew her mouth shut?
She also donated her teeth?
Yeah, that's a new thing. I will say, though, just totally going back, the open, empty morgue drawer, the flash on it, made me want to die. That was so scary. And I knew he said in the beginning there were only 3 occupants of the drawers, but they were all open. Oh, I don't know why. That got me so bad. Yeah. Did not enjoy. I think that was the point at which my dog sensed my tension and went under the couch.
Oh no, so they didn't even protect you?
No. Larry senses any kind of discomfort and he's gone. He's such a bad dog.
He's not one for emotion.
At all. But going back to what Austin was saying about the pacing of the movie, for the first little bit, like maybe the first half, I was just waiting for something to happen. And I guess my question is, do they do that to ratchet up the tension because you're always expecting things to happen and nothing happens? So it's like peaks and valleys of adrenaline until the sustained, this is it, this is the action part of the movie. Is that a normal horror way to do things?
So, not always. There's a couple different types of horror. This is kind of what is considered a slow burn, which is when it takes a long time to really ramp up the tension. Personally, I love a slow burn. I love when it takes its time and you sort of can get invested in the characters and in the story and you're just kind of waiting to see how it unfolds. And then usually at the end of the movie, it goes bananas. Obviously, that's not every horror movie. A lot of them start kind of right out of the gate with crazy scares and death and murder and all that fun stuff. So it's really just kind of a personal taste, I guess, if you prefer one or the other. But I do really love that this movie took its time to make you kind of become aware of the world that you're in with these characters and their morgue and kind of following them, but then having those little hints that something's amiss. So you know that things are going to get worse, but it's not quite there yet. I feel like that creates a really good amount of tension, and I fully enjoy that.
I liked it too. Yeah, sorry. I do enjoy a slow burn for sure. Maybe I didn't know that this is a slow burn, but I kept expecting something to happen, a blink, a movement, and it just seemed a weird choice that ultimately was a good choice, but to have half the movie be nothing, very routine, and then all of a sudden, bonkers bananas, psychological torture.
Yeah, I think it made it really effective, especially because is such a short movie. It's only 86 minutes long. And I don't think anything scary really happens until like maybe 25 minutes in is when things kind of start getting a little weird. And even then, it's not scary per se. So yeah, like and I think, Jen, when you asked what our scare levels were, I think I was just always at kind of a heightened level. Like it was totally effective for me because I was always tense. And even if nothing happened, it was still, I don't know. And I think because it was kind of claustrophobic, like Jackie was talking about, it really worked. And then like the last 20 minutes of the movie were just wild. And because I texted Jen while I was watching it saying, I think I'm going to have to watch this movie in chunks. Like I was so uncomfortable. So even though nothing really scary had happened, every 25 minutes or so, I was like, I think I have to take a break. And I didn't. I ended up watching it in one go, but yeah.
Oh, good for you. I did not.
Yeah,
I definitely did
very
not.
proud of you, Austin, for being able to watch that in one sitting. Jackie, better luck next time.
Thank you. I appreciate that you didn't immediately call me a jerk. That is so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know what you guys thought the scariest moment was.
I'd say for me, going to the first time I watched it, I'd say maybe the scene when they're in the room and you hear the bell of the corpse in the hallway, because that's when you know something fucked up is happening, but you don't see it. And I just found that really creepy. Anytime the bells of the corpse is moving, I just think that's so creepy.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would agree. I think that scene was probably the scariest for me as well. Because it's one of those things that, like, even for as tense as I was, the actual scares weren't that scary. Like, there's not that many jump scares. I managed to sit through all of them. Like when you see the I think it's the woman with the eyes and mouth sewn shut pop up kind of, and then like I watched all that. So and it wasn't as scary as I think I was expecting things to be, which I prefer. I'd rather expect something to be scarier than it ends up being. But yeah, I think just that atmosphere of hearing the bell and not knowing what's going on, that was really intense.
That makes sense. I was just going to say that I think what scares me the most in a movie is a similar kind of moment when it's anticipation of something happening. Like every time they would try and look under the door or through an axe hole, every time they slowly approach something to look through and you know something's going to potentially stab right through into their eye hole, really gets me. I don't want to look through things.
Did you guys? I totally got the sense that when they're solving the cloth that was inside her body, when they figure out that it's Leviticus, whatever the verse was, it was a total escape room move. So I
that would be a
respected
great
that.
escape room. I would do the hell out of that.
What,
God.
doing an autopsy?
Yeah, I did one once that was a funeral home and an autopsy suite. It was awesome.
I did one too, but I think yours was scarier than mine was.
I just wanted to ask one more thing about what you guys thought about this no internal staircase into the house problem. I really was like, no house is constructed where the only access to go upstairs is an elevator.
I was confused why there were no stairs.
And then how did the girlfriend get in?
I believe she took the elevator.
I think the elevator was probably actually working, right?
Yeah.
Was that maybe another manipulation tactic?
Yeah, I think that was part of the like mind fuck, that she wasn't letting them go upstairs, but she let the girlfriend come down.
And then when they were trapped in the elevator before they decided to go back, it was actually working, but she was just keeping them thinking it wasn't working.
Yeah, because the reason it wasn't working, I believe, is because the power had gone out from the storm, but there was no storm, so I don't think the power really went out. So I think the elevator was working.
So do you think if they got in the elevator and pressed the button, it would have gone up?
No, I think it still would have stayed there. I mean, that's a really good question. Basically, we were asking, how is she manipulating reality or their perception of reality? So is it that she's actually stopping the elevator from going up, or is she making them think that they were stuck in the elevator when really it could have been going up and down that whole time?
Right.
True.
And also whether the door was actually blocked by something physical or if it was just in their mind. Ugh, creepy. I actually really was surprised when they axed the girlfriend. Obviously, it was a surprising moment, really scary and very unexpected for me. But my immediate thought after she got axed, I was like, oh, girlfriend's coming back. She's going to be a walking dead zombie and she's going to do some specific kind of torture on her boyfriend. But they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. I thought that maybe was a missed opportunity, but then it kind of supports the it's all in their mind thing. Maybe she can't actually manipulate bodies. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I like that it doesn't really answer questions. Like, I guess that's frustrating in some situations, but I think it works for this, right? Where we don't know exactly how she works and how she kills and what her methods are, but we get the sense of it, we get the general idea, and I don't know, it's effective.
Yeah, like when they're doing the autopsy and they figure out she's a witch, they kind of theorize like maybe she's like getting revenge for the torture that was enacted on her. But that's not necessarily the explanation. That's just what they're assuming based on what they've seen. So it does kind of leave you able to kind of debate like, well, was it really this? Was she doing this? Was she doing that? And I like that aspect of it because I think if they had somehow found some magical explanation and could go into details, like it wouldn't make any sense if they were like, aha, the paper that we found in her stomach actually explains the full powers of a witch.
Yeah, exactly. And there wasn't like some, outside person, that knew all of this, like knew the history and that they could turn to. Like there wasn't that kind of...
Oh yeah, like calling up your folklore expert professor on the phone and being like,
exactly.
Tell me about witches.
But how many movies does that happen in, right? Like that's a common tactic. Yeah.
And Jen, you make a good point though. It's more believable to have questions left because then it could be anything. Whereas if they give you a concrete explanation, it's usually so unbelievable that you're like, well, that's bullshit. I don't have to think about that anymore.
Yeah, that's like, for some reason, the example I'm thinking of is the movie Us. I don't know if any of you saw that.
Nope.
No, but I know about it.
It's enjoyable. I liked it. It's creepy, but then they kind of get into this weird explanation part where they're like, this is how everyone has a doppelganger that lives underground. And I was like, I don't know if I buy this.
Yeah, I like that it gives you some rules, but not all the rules. So you have a good understanding, but not every answer or not every question is answered, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, the one other thing I really wanted to talk about was just the sound design of this movie.
Yes. I also made a note of the sound, but you are the sound expert, Austin, so please educate us.
I'm really not. I just, right off the bat, I think I mentally clocked that the sound was really effective right away before even anything particularly scary happened. It was just on top of the being stuck in such a small confined space, like the radio going, the doors creaking, the lights flickering. I think you heard a clock ticking at one point. Just like everything really worked together. The friggin' bell down the hall was very creepy. Like just everything fit perfectly, and it was maybe, I don't know, it's probably one of the first things that it was one of the first things that jumped out at me in the movie, so it kind of stuck with me. Oh, there was like a weird pulse that was beating during the brain exam when things were kind of starting to build, and they realized that her brain cells were still alive. But there was like a pounding sort of, and it was very cool. Very cool orchestrations as well. A lot of strings, and so just everything. The music as well as the sound effects were really effective.
That's cool.
I sound like a broken record. I'm just like, this really worked, and this really worked, and this really worked. But
I need you to tell me because it just doesn't penetrate my brain. I never really can think of it on that level. The only sound thing I noticed was in the beginning, right when it started, they do that classic horror movie where ambient noise gets really, really, really loud and then it cuts out to absolute silence.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate that. I honestly always hate that. So I was just like, it's going to be one of those movies. But it didn't end up being anything like I expected, so it's okay.
Well, I think what makes sound so effective is when you don't necessarily notice. It depends. Like, for me, it totally worked, but I can see how if you aren't like mentally clocking it, it just contributes, right? It contributes to the atmosphere, and this movie is really atmospheric. So you may not, you might feel uncomfortable, but not know why you feel uncomfortable.
Totally. That's exactly where I am in movies, and that's why I have to keep stopping them. Like, something's wrong. I will say, just going back to what you said about the pulse during the brain examination, I don't know what they were looking at under a microscope, but that is not a slice of human brain. What they remove looks like they're removing one of the meninges, probably the dura, and they put it, and I don't even know what I was looking at. It looked like a blur of movement. That's not cells. That's not blood. I don't know what it was, but it's quote unquote alive. So maybe it's witch brain. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe brains looked different in like the 17th century.
Yeah, or at least haunted devil brains. I also say one thing I Like, this movie did subvert a lot of things I was expecting, and I guess that's the hallmark of horror nowadays and why Jen likes it so much, is that they're always trying different things and to make you expect something that ultimately doesn't deliver. But the first time they showed the crematorium furnace, in my head, I'm like, someone's going in that. I was sure someone was going to die by being trapped in the furnace.
Oh no.
So again, I'm happy that they didn't do that. I don't want to know what's going to happen.
I
Right.
do like that both of you basically tried to predict what the scares in the movie were going to be. You like Austin had a list. Jackie's like, oh, that furnace is coming back into play. This is how it's going to happen. You guys were really trying to like solve this movie in a certain way. It's interesting.
Yeah. We were probably doing the same thing to just try and prepare ourselves.
Yeah.
Out of my list of scares that I wrote down, the only one that didn't really happen was someone standing at the foot of a bed. So, not too bad.
Yeah. Not too bad. I always expect when they show an elevator in a horror movie that someone's going to get chopped up in it. So
Oh,
I was
nice.
glad that didn't happen too.
Elevator adjacent.
Yeah, she got chopped outside the elevator.
Yeah, but not like by the elevator. I assume you mean like the elevator doors like closing and like crushing someone.
Yes,
Ah, okay.
exactly. I don't like
Yeah.
that.
I will say, like, this movie left breadcrumbs, like, talking about the types of scares. Like, obviously, the bell and the like, at the beginning when they were kind of panning around the morgue, I guess. But they showed that corner mirror and, like, they kind of told you, they set up, like, okay, I think I know what kind of scares to expect, but they still managed to kind of subvert it.
This movie has ruined corner mirrors for me, and they're in every hospital. They're everywhere. I use them all the time in the old folks' home, moving people around. So thank you for me always going to be thinking there's going to be a dead body at the other side.
I'm surprised that this movie ruined corner mirrors for you because I find them inherently creepy. I used to live at a different part of the city, and that subway station, there was a long tunnel that you had to walk through for the one entrance, and there was corners. So it had corner mirrors so that you could see if someone was coming down the tunnel, and it always scared me. I was always staring at that mirror as I walked, like something's going to come around the corner and kill me.
They're so helpful. When you're wheeling with stretchers and wheelchairs, they're like a godsend. So thanks. Great. They're awful now. Now I'm going to be terrified.
Those are kind of the key points that I had, if anyone else has anything.
Yeah, I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about.
I was confused about the smoke that she generated, in that when they were walking towards it, it looked like it was almost really contained in the room. And maybe I closed my eyes and missed something, but they were running around the smoke. They're getting hurt, and then all of a sudden the smoke is gone. Did that make sense to anybody?
Jen?
I don't remember what scene this was.
It's right when they're going, they decide that they have to go back in. They're sitting in the elevator. They're having their discussion. Time to go back in. She has somehow turned on the crematorium furnace and smoke has billowed.
Okay.
And then they're walking towards it. They get in it. The dad is beaten up a little bit. And then it's just gone.
I don't know.
Do you still not?
I didn't really
do you know that?
I didn't really
Okay.
think much of it. Sorry.
Yeah, same. I didn't really clock that particular bit.
I found it weird because they made it very clear that the smoke came from somewhere. So it wasn't just going to disappear. It was smoke from the furnace. So it in my mind, that mean it existed, but then it was just gone.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I think I'm being too logical.
No, I'm going to have to rewatch that scene and give you an answer and be like, oh,
Okay,
well,
great.
Jackie, let me explain this for you.
I honestly, that's all I want in my life. Please, people, just explain how things work. I'm always confused. The other thing is that when they tried to burn her, and then the entire facility basically got on fire, and then they put it out with the fire extinguisher, that was all psychological too. Is that what I'm understanding?
I'm trying to remember, because at the very end, after everyone's dead, the police come in and they're looking around the morgue. When they were doing that, was the photographs and everything still burnt?
No, I don't
Ooh.
think so. I think it was
Okay.
all... They would have said something too about the fire, I think, if there was evidence of a fire. But now that you said that, it just made me think of something. I wonder what the video camera would show.
That was what I put. As soon as I saw that camera, I was like, then I thought I was going to have another scare where I was like, oh, are they going to have to like watch something back and discover something? But then they made a point of showing the camera kind of being ruined in the fire. So I don't know.
Oh, so it was burnt.
Well,
Because
it
I saw
was,
the camera
but-
smashed, but I wasn't sure if it was burnt when the police were there at the end. In my mind, the sheriff is going to review that footage, and I'm just curious as to what he's going to see.
I'm literally watching it right now.
So I would assume even if it's not smashed or burnt, that if they tried to review the footage, it would either be all black or it would cut out at a certain point or nothing, or you would just see the two men running around screaming and stabbing each other. I don't think it would have captured anything that we saw. I don't think the witch would allow herself to be captured on film.
I mean, does she know what film is? She's from 1693.
Very true.
I wonder, that's an interesting point. Has she been...
I thought about that too. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Everything's still intact. I totally missed this. Okay, the photos are not burnt.
Okay, so then none of that really happened. That was just the witch.
Okay. There's no way they were going to contain that fire with one fire extinguisher. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I missed this on the first watch, but
Jen, you were going to say something about whether she's been coming back or not?
No, not necessarily about whether she's been coming back or not, but when you were saying, like, does she even know what a camera is? Has she been, like, a part of society before? I did have that thought, too, where they're performing the autopsy, but because her brain's alive, she can feel it, and that's why she's attacking them for hurting her. And I kind of had that thought where I'm like, if she hasn't been around since the 16th century or whatever, she doesn't know what an autopsy is. She doesn't understand that they're not trying to hurt her. You know what I mean?
Mm.
She's just taking this as, oh, this is more torture. People are still torturing me.
I guess I thought that because this family, in my opinion of the beginning in the family, it looked like they had uncovered this body, right? Not that they were trying to bury her. So I was wondering if she had been buried there for 300 years, 400 years, and had gone insane and was now just killing everybody to get back at them for that. Now I was just wondering if we think that she's like a curse upon humanity and this has happened time and time again, and she's just shuffled around.
So I don't know for sure if she was discovered at any point in between when she was originally buried in 1693 and this family discovering her. Because it's possible that maybe, like, even 200 years ago, someone dug her up and they did it again. Someone figured it out and then they buried her somewhere even farther away. She just got pushed to the next town again. So maybe it's not that it's happening like every decade or so, but maybe every couple hundred years. And she's just like, I hate humanity. Like, stop burying me. Stop digging me up and torturing me. I don't understand why you people are like this. I'm going to kill you all.
I also don't really understand why she has internal torture marks, but not external torture marks.
Magic.
Like, yeah, but why she just heals the outside for magic? Okay, that's fine. Let's just go with that.
No, I think that's interesting because I think that lends kind of credence to the idea that she's trying to attack people. So she's keeping her exterior still looking young. She hasn't decayed. She looks beautiful and perfect. So they've drawn in out of curiosity. And then once they are trying to figure out what's going on with her body or digging her up or reburying her or anything, then she's able to torture and kill them. So that's kind of like maybe she's doing this for a purpose to get back at humanity.
Oof. Do you think that if they cut her head off, she would die?
Someone has to try that. Maybe that's the sequel.
Yeah. I just asked because when I saw the axe, I thought someone was going to get their head chopped off. And when they discovered that her brain was the part of her that was still alive, I was sure I was going to see some chop, but didn't happen.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if it would even work. Like, could you chop her head off?
Yeah, because they tried to set fire to her body and that didn't work. So maybe if they tried to chop her head off, the axe would just bounce off her neck.
Maybe. Whew. But yeah, I mean, they could cut her skin. I don't know. I guess that's just one of those dumb thoughts I had that doesn't have any bearing on this conversation. I think those are all the points I had.
No,
there,
I
too.
always like it, Jackie. You always find these ways to look at a film that I never think of. You always have these questions, and I'm like, I didn't think of it like that.
I think this is why this is going to be a fantastic podcast. We're just very different people.
Yeah.
I'm overly detailed, I guess, about logic, which is such a stupid thing to do when watching a movie. But there it is.
Yeah, you're overly detailed and into logic, except when it's your picks, because there is no logic involved in The Rock.
It's a very logical movie.
We did establish that Sean Connery was magic in that movie, so I like how Jackie's on board with Sean Connery essentially being magical in The Rock. But
I mean, he's James Bond, right? We understand that? He is James Bond?
Yeah. But the witch in this movie, how does she do things? Magic. Should we talk about some high points and low points?
Yeah, sure.
I have once again neglected to choose those.
I have 2 high points, which we've kind of already talked about at length, but I really liked the father and son. I really liked the them as characters. I liked their dynamic. I like how they reacted to the situation. It was kind of refreshing. So that was a big thing for me. And just the general atmosphere, I really thought was, like I've been saying 100 times, so broken record, but very effective and very, very creepy. So I think those were the high points for me. Jen or Jackie, if she's ready.
So for me, I'd say the high point scene wise is the one I mentioned where you kind of see the corpse with the gunshot face and then he hits it with the axe and then it's really the girlfriend. I think that whole scene is great. My other high point is, in general, I loved the reveal that she was a witch. The first time I watched it, I didn't necessarily predict that, but I'm not sure if I really predicted anything, if I was kind of just going along with them as they found the clues. And when they discovered that she was a witch, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then when the father kind of theorizes that, you know, maybe she wasn't even a witch because the witch trials weren't real. Maybe she just took in all the torture that was inflicted on her and it turned her into something evil that she's bringing that torture back out onto humanity. Love that. I love a revenge film. I love a wronged woman tearing the world apart.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering at the end of the day. It was like, was she even a witch or did it just manifest into something? So
yeah,
maybe she needed to deal with the devil.
Yeah, for you to think about, like, was she a witch? Was she just wrongly accused? Because, like, he does also point out that she was tortured in a way that most accused witches weren't. So that could kind of maybe give hints towards she did have some sort of power and that's why they had to do more damage to her. Or maybe she was an innocent woman who was completely wronged and is now just killing everyone that comes in her way, which I am on board for. I am here for that. I love it.
Nice.
And Jackie?
Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to say that my high point was watching the autopsy happen because they did it really well and it made me kind of nostalgic for my old job. And they did a mostly good job. There were a couple things in terminology that were wrong, but it's pretty easy to do that in a movie, obviously, and I won't be nitpicky about it. But the real high point is probably that I didn't see this movie while I was spending middle of the nights in morgues, because that would have been real bad.
Oh, yeah, that would have been rough.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I'm glad I didn't have these images in my head, because honestly, that room with the drawers and the table, the setup is very similar to most hospitals I've worked in. So I don't need to be thinking about when my back is turned if those doors are opening.
They are.
No. Although one time, I swear to God, guys, I saw a twitch.
Oh, no.
That's a story for another time.
I think that's a story for right now.
It's basically, I was working on a body and it twitched.
Oh.
The end. I definitely left the room for a while and was like, let's take some breaths. This is okay. Continue.
Oh, man.
What about low points? I think we all have the same low point, I'm guessing.
I don't know. I think
cat death.
What? Oh, I was gonna say for me, I think it was the problem with my screen is that I think I missed some stuff. I didn't see that he was like bruised and that it kept growing. I didn't catch that because I think the lighting on my iPad was too dark. So I just missed a couple things that way. But that's not the movie's fault. That's just my viewing low point. But yeah, that was pretty much it for me. I didn't really have any low points really.
My only low point, other than the cat death, was the scene that you guys mentioned earlier where it's kind of like a jump scare-ish, where you see the face of the corpse where it's like the eyes and the mouth are kind of sewn shut. Mm-hmm. I didn't get into the logic of why it didn't make sense for that to be sewn shut like Jackie does, but I kind of thought just a combination of the special effects, which aren't fantastic because it's an indie film, and other aspects they did do amazing, but this scene where it's like the distorted kind of face with the stitched up, it just seemed a little trying too hard to be creepy, so I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, it seemed a little out of place, I guess.
Yeah,
that doesn't make much sense for sure. I guess the only low point, I suppose, was that I was so ready for things to jump out of her body and squirt them or attack them, and I think I would have liked that. I think I was just waiting for her to bite or spit or something, and it didn't happen, and that's fine. It definitely turned out really cool. The fact that it's all in their heads is a really cool angle to think about, but I missed the bloody payoff of a autopsy gone wrong.
Listen, Last time I tried to make you guys watch horror movies, you told me you didn't like gore. Now you're telling me you want more gore. What do you want from me, Jackie?
I want what I want when I want it. I don't know why it's so hard for you to understand. No, I got to say, like, I'm such a chicken and I don't like gore, but when I've amped myself up for it and it doesn't happen, I think I feel stupid. So I think I just expected it to be different, even though I did enjoy it.
Next movie I pick is going to be an absolute gore fest just for you.
No.
But only if it's during an autopsy. That's where my comfort zone is.
No,
So,
sorry. It's going to be blood everywhere, viscera, brains, all of it.
God damn it, Jackie.
I'm sorry. This is all my fault.
Giving the people what they want.
I don't know what I want. I just don't want to watch horror movies.
So I don't have much in the way of trivia for this. It is a really low budget movie. The budget wasn't reported, but I saw that it was estimated to be between 1 and 2 million, so fairly low budget. And then it made worldwide gross was 6.1 million. So, I don't know how that stacks up against other things, but for an indie movie, it seems to be really well received, though, obviously, as Jen was talking about. I did want to ask you, Jen, did you see it at TIFF?
I did not. I did see when I was looking up about this movie that it premiered at TIFF.
Yeah.
I don't remember that premiere. Austin and I both volunteer at TIFF. This is for our listeners. It's the Toronto International Film Festival. So I don't remember this premiere, so I don't think I worked it. Because I do a lot of the Midnight Madness shifts. So I'm not sure if this is how it got on my radar. I do remember hearing about it. Like, it had really good word of mouth before I saw it. So I don't know if that was necessarily from TIFF or if that was just sort of like in general horror Twitter was talking about it.
Right.
I'm surprised that I, of all people, have heard of it, like heard the title when it was only a $6 million worldwide gross kind of film.
Yeah, it's definitely an indie movie. So, Jackie, you probably just saw the word autopsy and got excited.
Probably, like, legitimately 100%. I was like, ooh, better watch that.
The only other little tidbit I have here is that Martin Sheen was originally cast as Tommy, but then had to duck out because of scheduling conflicts.
I think that was a good choice. That would have taken me out of it more.
Brian Cox did a great job.
Yeah, I think
I do love Martin Sheen, but
too famous for a movie like this.
For sure, yeah.
Agreed.
That's pretty much all I got.
Austin, do you remember what the order is? Is it quotes, then trivia, then quotes, or does it matter?
Quotes, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, throw out some quotes, Jackie. What did you write down?
Especially in this movie, I do not have anything to offer. The only quotes I wrote down were, "Let's get the fuck out of here," and "What the fuck is going on?" Those are the quotes I got. That's it.
I wrote down one quote that kind of did actually make me chuckle before things started getting scary, when the son is talking to his girlfriend, and I think she's leaving, or they're kind of like bickering, and he's just like, "You're hot," and I don't know why, but that made me chuckle. Jen, what other movies came out this year?
Thank you for that nice little intro, Austin.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So this is a fairly recent movie. Like I said, it came out in 2016, so you guys will probably remember what you were watching that year. That was the year of La La Land and Moonlight, if you remember that famous rivalry.
Yes. Oosh. Sorry, that was towards La La Land.
I still have never seen La La Land.
Same. No desire.
Not good.
Yeah, that's good. Austin won't make us watch it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's in my category too, but
yeah, no, I'm like, it's a musical, so it would be up your alley, but
I liked it in the moment. It was the volunteer. It was the People's Choice winner at TIFF, so They did the volunteer screening for it that year. So I saw it then, and I left having enjoyed it. It's one of those movies, and this happens a lot, where I like it in the moment, and then the more I think about it, in the days following, the more I start to hate it. And that's kind of what happened with that one for me.
Yeah, I remember that one got so much buzz at TIFF, even before TIFF, and all the showings were sold out, and there was lines and craziness, and I was just like, nothing about this calls to me. There's nothing about this movie that intrigues me. It's so not up my alley, so I just didn't bother.
It's completely the thing that I hate about movie musicals, where they cast people that are not singers or dancers. And I mean, they did an okay job, but I'm just like, come on. It's my number one pet peeve.
I'm going to give a defense here of Ryan Gosling, because he did used to be in a band, so he is a singer.
He was better than Emma Stone, so.
Okay.
Continue, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Other years. Fuck me. Okay. Other movies that came out that year was Batman vs. Superman, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and then the Ghostbusters reboot, the all-women Ghostbusters, which is one of the only movies that I've read out here that I actually enjoyed, that and Moonlight. So 2016, not my favorite year, but there were some good ones in there.
No, I'm gonna call that all bad. Not a bunch of good. That's not good. None of those are good. I mean, Ghostbusters was fine. It was kind of a nothing movie, but the rest is just garbage.
Yeah, I thought the Ghostbusters remake was cute, but no, it wasn't like groundbreaking.
Right. I haven't seen Moonlight. I do need to see it.
But Moonlight is good. It's very sad.
I don't think I want to watch a sad movie with the state of the world right now.
Yeah, right now maybe not, but when you're in the mood for a good, sad, serious drama, give Moonlight a try.
Noted.
All right, so I guess that brings us to our ratings.
Oh yes.
So let's
do enjoyment and overall quality.
Yeah. For me, I guess I'll start. I would say for enjoyment, I feel like with horror movies, it's like two different rating scales. It's like enjoyment during the movie and enjoyment after the fact. But averaging them out, I'd say my enjoyment was like probably a 9. I really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie, which kind of ties me into quality, which I'm also going to put at a 9.
Nice. I'm impressed at how high that is.
Honestly, I think this is what I do like about horror movies. Like, this was a perfect example of a horror movie that I'm into. I was thinking about this earlier, where like I was saying before, how I like the concept of horror movies and I want to like horror movies. I just have I'm not good at being scared. And within that, different genres of horror movies, like slashers, I don't particularly like, but they don't really scare me. Same with like zombie stuff, but like ghosts and like paranormal movies are definitely the ones that freak me out the most and will stick with me the longest. So they're the harder ones for me to watch, but they're also the ones I end up enjoying the most. So this kind of snuck itself in nicely there.
Nice. Okay, I'll just give you my ratings. I have a difficult time with horror movies as well, because I don't know if I can ever classify it as an enjoyment scale. So I'm going to call it an appreciation scale.
Okay.
In this movie, I appreciated I'm going to give it a 7.5. I liked it. I honestly think the second time I watch it, my appreciation will go up. This time, it's just my own trap of when I don't know what at all to expect. I expect the worst or what has scared me in the past, and I close my eyes too much. So I think I missed some things that would have been cool to see, and I will watch it again sometime, and I think I would appreciate it more. It would probably go up to an 8.5. In terms of quality, yeah, I will give it a 8. I'm always bad at these ratings because I'm never super aware of that aspect of movie making. The set design and things like that don't generally penetrate into my brain very well. So I think this one looked really good. I didn't even know it was an indie film. I really enjoyed the creepy basement. And like I said earlier, that type of claustrophobic locked door movie where people have to solve a problem and get out of a space always really is appealing to me. I like that problem solving aspect. So for quality, I'll give it a 8.
Nice.
So yeah, I think we're all pretty much on the same page with this one. I think quality wise, I'd give it probably a 9. I think it's really well made. It's really solid. It's well written. The set design is great. The acting's good. I don't have a lot of complaints. And then enjoyment, I'd probably give it like a 8.5 or a 9, especially the first time I watched it. Like I said, I had no idea what I was in for. And I really was taken aback by how much I enjoyed it. Not to sound like a snob, but a lot of the times I don't expect much from horror movies.
That's fair.
Because I just, you see so many of them, and a lot of them are kind of, especially the ones that make it to theaters, are usually pretty bad. So it's harder to find the kind of hidden gems like this. So I was really appreciative of it.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Jen, did you anticipate both of us liking a horror movie?
I figured that I thought maybe Austin would like it. Also because she spoiled herself and read about it so she wouldn't be too scared. And I figured that Jackie would not be able to watch it. So the fact that you watched most of it, I'm very happy about.
Yeah, but you're pretty much right. Like, a lot of the time I had to stop. And I want to stress to you, Jen, I did not like this. I appreciated it.
Yeah, so I know,
can understand.
In the past, when we talked about horror movies and what you guys kind of like and don't like, you had kind of said that you both prefer. Jackie, you said you prefer more psychological, and Austin, you really get scared by like supernatural. So I thought this was kind of a good merger of the two.
I think it was for me.
Yeah,
anyway.
actually, you did a good job for sure. If you were thinking that, I think you definitely hit it on the head.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. I picked this because I thought you would like it.
All right, calm down. I want to state again, there was no liking involved.
I do like when we were doing the highlights, Jackie. You're like, my highlight was when I was just watching an autopsy and pretending it wasn't a horror movie.
Right? Get some tunes going, throw a liver and a scale. It's a good day.
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up, right? So next time we're going to be talking about True Lies, which is Jackie's pick.
Yes.
I've never seen it. Shocker. Jen, have you seen it?
I have seen it, but not in a really long time. And I actually have
pumping.
seen this one. This isn't like The Rock where I thought I've seen it and then I was in for a whole different movie.
I'm fist pumping so hard right now. Can't wait.
Okay, so thanks so much for listening. Join us next week when we're talking about True Lies. And you can follow us on Instagram at HateYourTastePod. And thanks so much. Bye.